Happy Friday. Let's do this. So, I'm going to start off. I'm trying something new. Again, I kind of stumbled across this and said, well, I guess I'll try that out. It is a hard ginger ale. So, it's only 4.2%. It's pretty good. I mean, I imagine I would generally use this as a base. You know, I'd mix it with something else, but no, it's pretty good. So, cheers. Welcome to the weekend. Welcome to the almost internet famous weekly TechSpective happy hour. So let's talk about some stuff. For starters, we're into February now, but it's still close enough to the beginning of the year that I can kind of talk about resolutions and priorities and stuff. And one of the things that there are a lot of things on my list, you know, like I claim that I want to read more. I claim that I'd like to learn to play one of these two guitars sitting in my office. Actually, if I learned to play one of them, I guess I'd learn to play both of them. That's kind of the way guitars work. But anyway, I do have two guitars sitting here, which you can't see, they're over there. But two guitars sitting in here, making my office look cool, that I'd like to know how to play. I'd like to lose weight. I'd like to be in shape. All these things. You know, the list of things I'd like to do. And that's just focusing on me specifically. I'd also like to do more projects in the house. I'd like to do more more things with my kids. I'd like to do more things with my wife. You know, so there's a long list of things, and there's only so many hours in the day. And one of the things that always sort of amazes / frustrates me is when I look at other people I respect, other people, you know, that I know, that they seem to be able to do all those things. Like, I mean, I've got plenty of friends who work out a lot, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day. I have some friends who work out a lot. I have friends who read supposedly 60 plus books last year, 100 plus books, and yet still also are very successful in their careers, still spending time with their wives and their kids and going on vacations and seem to have it all. And so sometimes I kind of look at that and I say, okay, well, what am I doing wrong? Because it seems as if it's possible. You can, in fact, have a career and exercise and find some personal time to exercise and read some books and spend time with your kids and your wife and do things as a family. It is possible because I see people do it. And one of the, basically the conclusion I came down to is it's a matter of priorities and discipline. And so those are sort of my mantras for 2016. If I can look at my week, I can look at my calendar and say, I'm too busy, I don't have time for whatever. Let's say a friend wants to go to lunch. I can look at my calendar and say, you know what, I don't have time this week, my calendar's full, I cannot make time to go to lunch. But if that time, the proposed time, let's say it's noon on Thursday, and I say, well, no, I don't have time at noon on Thursday to go to lunch. Well, if I'm sitting here in my home office at 11:55 a.m. on Thursday, and suddenly the fire alarm goes off because the house is on fire, I will make time to leave the house and deal with that situation. I will make the time out of necessity. And I can say I don't have time, but if I get the flu and I just cannot get out of bed. There's no choice but to make that time. And so in those cases, the priority is made for me, for you. It's not really a choice you're making. I mean, the house is on fire, you're too sick, whatever. The point is, that time is there when the need is great enough. The time is there if you want it to be there, or if you need it to be there. And it's just a matter of choices. And so if I were to sit back and look at my day and look at my life and say, well, you know, I feel like I'm too busy. I have all these things going on. I don't have time to read. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to learn to play the guitar. But somehow I managed to play some Madden football. Somehow I managed to keep up with the Big Bang Theory. There is time that I am consciously choosing to do something else, and so it comes down to a matter of priorities and discipline, and just making it a choice that given an hour of time, that I would rather learn to play the guitar, or I would rather spend that time reading than sitting in front of the TV playing Madden football. So that's my mantra for the year, is to have the self-discipline to make the choices, to make to reset my priorities, so that those things I keep saying I want to do but can't seem to make time for become priorities in my life and end up happening. So we can talk about that later in the year. We can see how things are going. You can feel free to chime in with whatever personal growth and improvement and self-discipline tips and tricks you might have, any time management tips and tricks. But like I said, I watch other people do it, and I know it can be done. And I think it basically comes down to they made a decision to do it. So I'm making a decision. So that's that. On a minorly related note, my wife and I were talking about fitness bands. They're all the rage. I was using a Nike Fuel Band years ago. It's actually still in this desk drawer somewhere. Yeah. So, Nike Fuel Band. I used to use that. Now I wear the Microsoft Band off and on. The original Microsoft Band, I love it. It's bang for the buck. I think it's one of the best fitness bands / smartwatches available, but it is still a little bit uncomfortable at times. And I think that the Microsoft Band 2, I think, addresses the problem that I have with the original Microsoft Band, but I haven't had the Microsoft Band 2 to play with, so I can't say for sure. Anyway, here's my point about the fitness bands. 2 points. Number one is people get them, and then there's built-in software with kind of default settings, and it might say, you're supposed to take 3,000 steps a day. You're supposed to take 5,000 steps a day. You should burn 2,000 calories. Your heart rate should be in this range. And as a generality, those things I'm sure are in the realm of where you ought to be, perhaps. But it's your responsibility then to figure out what it is for you. What do you want out of the fitness band, and do you need to take 3,000 steps a day to meet your goals, or is 3,000 steps a day not even anywhere near enough, and you really need to take 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 steps a day? So number one is, don't let the fitness band decide for you. Put a little effort in, figure out what your own goals are, figure out what your fitness band or the software or the app you're using, what its capabilities are in terms of monitoring those metrics and helping you keep track of those things, and then set your own goals so that you're working for what you want and not for what Fitbit or Microsoft or whoever decided you should do. 2 is take the metrics with a grain of salt, or at least keep them in perspective, relatively speaking. A friend was using a Fitbit and monitoring heart rate and said, well, hey, look, I'm monitoring my heart rate, and it says that I'm, all day I'm in this, fat burning heart rate range. To which I say, well, were you exercising for 8 hours? Were you doing something to elevate your heart rate and actually burn fat during that entire time frame? And the friend says, well, no, I was basically just wearing the Fitbit, going about my day. So I said, okay, well then, I don't think that really means that you were necessarily in that, that I'm assuming the heart rate itself was accurate. But if that's just your normal sedentary day and it's tracking your heart rate, I would say you probably weren't actually burning fat that whole time. So instead of looking at that and saying, oh, well, the Fitbit says I'm burning fat all day, I think it's better to look at it and say, okay, that's my baseline. I know what it looks like. I know what the data looks like on a day when I do nothing. And then you can go exercise for an hour and you can say, okay, now I know what the data looks like after I've exercised for an hour. I know what that looks like. And then, you can measure those things, measure yourself, not against an arbitrary standard, but against your own baseline. You know what your doing nothing looks like, and you know what your exercising looks like. And then that data means more to you as you look at your Fitbit results or your Microsoft Band results or whatever. It means more to you if you're looking at it relative to your own norm. And interestingly, when I first got the Nike Fuel Band, one of the things I didn't like about it is it operates on a proprietary metric. I mean, they give you Nike fuel points, and it was always like, well, what's a Nike fuel point? And there's no real straight good answer for that. It's basically some magic thing Nike made up to measure activity. But after I used the Nike Fuel Band for a while, I figured out, what? I don't really need to know what a Nike fuel point is or how they calculated it. All I need to know is, on a normal day when I do nothing, I get this many Nike fuel points. So in order to actually be exercising, to actually make progress, to actually do something, I need to make sure that my fuel points are up here. So it doesn't really matter what a fuel point is or how Nike calculated it. All that matters is, what is my sedentary baseline, and did I or did I not do better than that? So it becomes a matter of just personal relativity. So that's my little minor rant about fitness bands. So now let's go back to a little bit further on the tech end of the spectrum. One of the stories floating around, so there's always rumors about the next iPhone, the next iPad, the next whatever. There's always an Apple rumor mill pretty much 24/7, 365. So right now, there's a lot of speculation about the iPhone 7 having wireless charging. Now that in and of itself wouldn't be groundbreaking. Samsung and I think some of the Microsoft phones, there's a lot of other, there are other phones on the market that already have wireless charging. Based on the standards where there's like a wireless charging surface in like the back of the phone, and you could set it on a platform. So you don't have to plug the cable in, but you do have to set it on a mat or a platform that is the wireless charging surface. The story I saw today, though, suggests that Apple is actually possibly working with a vendor on ranged wireless charging, meaning you wouldn't have to set the iPhone down on a mat as long as you were within 5 feet, 10 feet of the charging base, that it would actually wirelessly charge your phone through the airwaves. So that, if that rumor turns out to be true, that would be cool, because the wireless charging where you have to set it on the mat is, to me, somewhat of a novelty. It's like, it's sort of cool, but not really that much more convenient than having to plug in the cable. And much less convenient when you're out and about, because you can usually find a micro USB cable to borrow from somebody if you need to charge a device, or you can usually find a lightning cable to borrow from somebody if you need to charge a device. But the odds of just randomly finding a wireless charging mat are a lot slimmer. I mean, I know that there is some momentum behind it, and Starbucks is supposed to embrace the wireless charging and have like wireless charging mats and stations in Starbucks. And IKEA was selling or is selling furniture that has wireless charging surfaces built into it. So it's becoming a little more popular, and so maybe it will be easier at some point to find those things. But right now, I would say that I'd rather have the cable, but the wireless charging would be sort of cool. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. But speaking of Apple cables and such, I posted a video late last week about these cases I got from Vessel, and it's very nice. I mean, there's no back, there's no front. It's just a band, but it's a handmade custom case. It's very nice. You can go watch that video. But one of the things that I ran into is these ports, for the audio jack and the lightning cable, are a little too small. They're excuse me. They work fine with the official Apple lightning cable and the official Apple earbuds, but I've got probably 15 lightning cables in the house. Only like 2 of them are official Apple cables, and I have a bunch of Amazon Basics cables and a bunch of random other cables from third-party vendors, excuse me, that have sent me stuff to test out and play with. And a lot of them aren't really that big. Like here, let me see if I can get this and this. Okay, so this is that's kind of blurry. This is the Apple lightning cable. Okay, so you can see kind of how wide that is, and again, very blurry. And then this is a third-party one that I've got. So it is wider, and it's a little bit thicker. So bottom line is, I can't actually charge my phone in this case with anything but an actual Apple cable. So that brought up 2 points. Number one, I contacted the case manufacturer, and because these are handmade custom cases, he's actually going to custom make me a replacement bottom piece with larger holes so that it will function with my cables. So that's cool, and definitely very good customer service, very responsive, and a quality experience for the case. But it just for case manufacturers, it's something to keep in mind. Is not just the official, whether the official cable that comes with the device will work, but what about the third-party cables on the market? Will they work with your case? The flip side of that being, why is it, because it never occurred to me until this week, why is it that every single third-party lightning cable is at least a little bit wider and a little bit thicker than the Apple lightning cable? Like, why can't third-party manufacturers create a lightning cable that is the exact replica of the Apple cable? I don't know if that's a kind of a trademarky kind of thing. Like if it would be too much of a copy if they made it exact, and so they have to do something to it to make it different, just so they don't get in trouble, legally speaking. I don't really know. I mean, I can't understand why Apple can make these, but other manufacturers have fatter ends on their lightning cables. So there's that. All right, I'm gonna wrap up with 2 things. First of all, just want to give a plug for this book I got for Christmas. If you like rap music at all, you should check this book out. So it's the Rap Yearbook by Shay. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Shay Serrano. it's an excellent read, very well researched, and I've been following rap almost since when this book started. This starts in 1979. I started listening around 1981. So most of the stuff in here I knew at least somewhat and have followed along, and so I know these artists, I know these songs, but this is just it is an excellent book. Highly recommend it. So get one of those. And last thing, if you've been watching these videos, then I've mentioned at least 2 or 3 times all of the stuff I have to review. I mean, I'm just surrounded by stuff I'm supposed to be reviewing. And a lot of it, I'm using the stuff, so I'm gathering my notes and my thoughts on it. And some of it I even have the review, the framework of the review written. I just need to kind of put the final polish on it and get it online. But I thought I would ask you what you'd like to see reviewed first. So if I just ask you, which review would you like to see tomorrow? Would you rather see the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus smartphone review, the Urban Armor Gear Surface Pro 4 case review, the Microsoft keyboard and mouse review, the Logitech conference cam review, or the Dyson bladeless fan / heater review? And that is a very small subset of the stuff I've got to review laying around here. But those are 5 things that are kind of a diverse array of stuff. So feel free, comment here, comment on TechSpective, and let me know, or just email me. You can just email me at Tony, Tony, at techspective.net, and let me know, which one of those would be most interesting to you or most valuable to you. So there you go. Have a good weekend. Once again, cheers. And I will talk to you next week.